Prime Minister confident. Vanimo camp back in Port Moresby. And highway provides opportunities for locals.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Seah.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Sunday's news. Our top stories later in the bulletin, but first, the civil society organisation has sided with church leaders in Port Moresby, calling on all 111 elected members of parliament to respect the rule of law. A joint statement released by CSO, churches and concerned citizens states that Papua New Guinea is already reeling under the combined weight of COVID-19 and a struggling economy. While the effects of these struggles have already affected ordinary Papua New Guineans, the members of parliament must avoid at all costs any more burdens the current political situation may bring. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court is expected to hand down a ruling on the legality of a parliament sitting that led to the passing of the 2021 national budget. Papua New Guinea Christian Fellowship will now continue its church programs after a court proceeding filed against them was dropped by the National Court. This appeal was filed against them by a group of squatter settlers who were evicted on a piece of land at Gerehu in the nation's capital. With the case now cleared by the court, the church is committed to continue to develop the land and continue its programs to transform lives.
PNG Christian Fellowship is a church organization committed to transforming lives through programs like seminars, conference, teaching, crusades and Sunday services. And they have television and radio program through NBC called The Abundant Life. However, their programs were put on hold due to the court proceedings. The appeal was dismissed by the courts in its entirety as incompetent and abuse to process.
Regarding the development and the stages in which we wanted to do changes to the land itself, this court process has been it was like an hassle. It caused a lot of hindrance to the development process itself.
The court proceedings began in 2018 when the church decided to develop its piece of land described as Posen 3683 at Gerehu, and eviction proceedings were then filed against a group of settlers who were residing on this piece of land. Permanent restraining and eviction orders were granted by the district courts. However, the group of squatter settlers appealed to the national courts.
The orders in a nutshell was that he dismissed the appeal from the district court and he upheld the eviction orders of the district court. So the judge gave the settlers 40 days for them to move out of the property, or we will engage police and evict them.
In welcoming the court victory, the pastor thanked church members and believers for their prayer and support in the 2 years of court battle. They are now committed to continue their TV and radio programs and to carry out further developments that has been put on hold as a result of this court battle.
The courts have spoken. The church's name is clear, and I want to let the nation know that we will resume our television program and radio programs, and there are a couple of other seminars and workshops and conferences and crusades that we normally have around the nation.
Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
Locals living along the New Britain Highway between East and West New Britain provinces say they are seeing economic benefits of the highway unlike before. Henry Karup from Kasaska village in the inland binding LLG of East New Britain province says he makes about 500 kina every week from selling garden produce and other essential items to the highway users. He says the infrastructure has changed their lives, especially in a remote area where generating an income through the informal sector was not possible in the past years.
Such semi-permanent structures are common along roadsides in East New Britain province. It's a marketplace that sells items from cooked food to garden food and other essentials. Here at Kasaska in the remote inland binding along the New Britain Highway, Henry Karab took a day off after a week of selling produce at his market in front of his home. He tells me the business looks promising for him and his family who are living away from the town.
We play seven planty man finish long. Along way happen some lo kimbe come. Even only come down can long rabal can go down lo kimbe. Me play seven more long. Something or some boy daka. Even kai along garden me play cook, me play help him all too. So I'm all get something now me play look him also me alright lo me play.
Much of the money he makes come from the highway users. Most of them are travelers who are traveling along the highway between East and West New Britain provinces, both day and night.
One night you go one day, by maximum 200 kina. So now we play hamamas.
Further down the road, similar market structures are set up along the roadsides. Even trade stores are also being built. Like Henry, other villages situated along the New Britain Highway are seeing economic benefits of this infrastructure, something that they have never seen before in this remote part of East New Britain province.
Before we play been stop long, one plaque in life where all man is a hat long. Go to town, but now a company been come inside them helping me plug through and join him road long here long. East New Britain go down long West New Britain, so now me play is stop all right.
While much of the developments are happening in Kokopo town, those in the rural areas like Henry and his family may not be able to benefit directly from these developments. Many of them continue to live a subsistence way of life. But apart from cocoa farming, Andrew says his roadside market is seen as a supplement to make money to meet his family's needs while waiting for the harvesting season. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
The Lihir Mining Area Landowners Association is now politically strong, legally compliant and united. This follows the swearing of a full board of executives comprising 16 chairmen, 4 Lihirian entities and 2 church representatives from the Catholic and the United Church respectively at the Mary Center on Lihir. Association Chairman James Lakatan says the new board of executives will better serve and fulfill the aspirations of all Lihirians as envisaged in the Lihir Destiny Charter. A new board of executives will take on pressing and outstanding issues of the Lihir people, including pursuing the Lihir Agreement Review process, continue negotiation on the integrated benefit package, pursue outstanding benefits under the Lihir Sustainable Development Program, and pursue other existing MOAs with Lihir Gold. The specific issue committees are mine-affected communities who were not included in the benefit package since the Lihir Gold mine started in 1995. Telecom PNG during the week acknowledged a commitment acting CEO Amos Tepi had made while in Tufi for the Tufi Tapa and Tattoo Cultural Festival by handing over the promised consolation prizes to contestants of the Tufi Tapa and Tattoo Cultural Festival Queen Quest that took place mid-November. Unlike last year's 12, this year's contest only saw 3 participants, in which grade 8 student Miss Staisnik Okena was crowned as Tufi's newest Tapa and Tattoo Queen. It was at this event that Telecom's acting CEO Mr. Amos Tepi made a commitment to give consolation prizes to the runners-up of the contest.
I take this opportunity to announce that the second runner-up will get the laptop. The 10 runner-up will get the mobile phone. The brand new one, we'll try and get that, all of them next week. So I want to announce that those 2, they will have a reward from Telecom, presentation from Telecom next week.
Runners-up Miss Anna Mota and Miss Amy Undaba both were promised a laptop and mobile phone courtesy of Telecom. And this week, that commitment was fulfilled by Telecom. The prizes were handed over to Stanis Eva Hooper, Deputy Chairman of the Tufi Tapa and Tattoo Cultural Festival, to hand over to the girls. Winner of the quest, Miss Staisnik Okena, takes over from Miss Naomi Scholastica Ikirima, who was crowned Queen last year. 15-year-old Okena, who had just completed her grade 8 exams and is awaiting her results, said being crowned the TTTCF Queen is a bonus. Ijivitari MP Richard Maseri announced that Okena would have her school fees taken care of by the Ijivitari District Development Authority if and when she is selected for high school.
We want to assure you that if you pass and continue on to high school or secondary next year, we will support and pay for your school fees next year to make sure that you go all the way through.
The same was done for the outgoing Queen of 2019, Miss Naomi Scholastica Ikirima, who was crowned Queen last year. Miss Ikirima, who is a student at Martyrs Memorial Secondary School in Popondetta, was emotional about handing over the crown to the new winner, Miss Okena. Okena was crowned the 2020 Tufi Tapa Tattoo and Cultural Festival Queen on November 15th at the Tufi station. You're watching National EMTV News. We'll have more stories after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, the Royal Commission into the Christchurch mosque attack has imposed a 30-year suppression on some of the evidence it heard. The order protects the identities of ministers and senior public servants, but it's raising concerns about accountability.
It was our darkest day. So many questions arose as to how this could have happened that a Royal Commission was tasked with finding the answers. But today we discovered the Commission has imposed a 30-year-long suppression order on some of the evidence it heard.
What we are looking for is to make sure that this kind of attack doesn't ever happen again to any other community. And that is why accountability and systems change are so important here.
Among the suppressed details, an interview with the terrorist that will be permanently sealed, never to be publicly released.
We're okay with that transcript not being released to the full public, but we do think that some members of the community should be able to have clearance and be able to review it.
The Council of Licensed Firearm Owners is also looking for answers.
We always said we're more than happy to get on board with firearms legislation if we can understand what went wrong first.
Dowling says if government agencies are at fault for allowing the terrorists to be armed, they should be held accountable.
Obviously, there's some apprehension. It will be a difficult and traumatic read.
The reading of the report could well re-traumatise the victims, but the Muslim community wants the right to see the unvarnished facts.
Iran has told the UN there are serious indications Israel was involved in the assassination of a top Iranian scientist. The scientist is widely credited with masterminding Iran's secret nuclear program.
Although remains undeclared, this might be a point of serious escalation. A saloon car on an Iranian highway, the narrow strip of bullet holes in the windscreen suggesting this was a professional assassination. State TV broke the news, and Iran's foreign minister called the killing an act of terror. Because Mohsen Fakhrizadeh was not some anonymous official in a white coat, but the so-called godfather of Iran's nuclear program.
The car carrying him was shot at, and about 15 seconds later, a Nissan pickup truck that was loaded with explosives blasted about 15 to 20 meters away, inflicting wounds on him that led to his martyrdom.
In fact, when the Israeli Prime Minister laid out Iran's apparent nuclear secrets 2 years ago, he unmasked the man who was said to be instrumental.
This is how Dr. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, head of Project Ahmad, put it. Remember that name, Fakhrizadeh?
Someone certainly did remember, and despite the denials today, suspicion immediately fell on Iran's regional rival. Israel and Iran have been antagonists for decades, but events elsewhere have escalated hostilities. Among them is the conflict in Syria, where Iran has been assisting the Assad regime. The corridor from Tehran to Damascus has landed the Iranians right on Israel's doorstep. Then there's Lebanon, where Hezbollah militants are said to be in possession of precision-guided missiles. But who backs Hezbollah? Again, Iran. Each side considers the other to be incompatible with the very idea of peace in the Middle East. 5 years ago in Iran, ITV News saw the museum which commemorates nuclear technicians killed in sophisticated assassinations. Now another is being mourned. But there's more than a human cost to today's killing. There's a consequence for the infamous Iran deal designed to restrict its nuclear activity. Salvaging it has now become much more difficult, which creates a problem not for this US president, but for the next.
A day after saying he would accept the election results, U.S. President Donald Trump is insisting President-elect Joe Biden must prove he won. This after a federal judge appointed by Trump declared a stinging review of his latest legal challenge.
Before hitting the golf course for the second day in a row, President Trump was already teed off, bizarrely declaring that Joe Biden can only enter the White House as president if he can prove that his ridiculous 80 million votes were not fraudulently or illegally obtained. Twitter immediately flagged the tweet because there is no evidence of widespread fraud.
I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way.
During the president's combative Thanksgiving news conference, he again refused to concede, warning the Electoral College not to certify Mr. Biden the winner.
Well, if they do, they made a mistake, because this election was a fraud.
But today, the president's campaign was hit with another stinging legal defeat in one of its last attempts to overturn Biden's win in Pennsylvania. In a scathing ruling, a Trump-appointed federal judge says calling an election unfair does not make it so. Charges require specific allegations and then proof. We have neither here. The campaign plans to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, even as the Trump administration's transition to President-elect Biden is well underway.
Thanksgiving has always been a special time for the Biden family.
Mr. Biden, who is spending the holiday weekend at his Delaware beach house, is expected to receive his first presidential daily intelligence briefing Monday.
Certainly I will. Certainly I will. And you know that.
While President Trump says he will leave the White House on January 20th if he isn't declared the winner, he won't say if he will attend Mr. Biden's inauguration.
I mean, I know the answer. I'll be honest, I know the answer, but I just don't want to say it yet.
A Malaysian medical glove manufacturer which supplies PPEs to hospitals around the globe has been forced to close after most of its factories because thousands of workers are catching COVID-19. And investigations are underway into the poor living conditions of the company's migrant workers who are sleeping in cramped, confined spaces.
The world's largest glove manufacturer has made a killing out of COVID. In response to surging global demand for PPE, Top Glove began a 24/7 operation, producing 166 million gloves a day, and hailed its 21,000 workers as the heroes of a pandemic-stricken world.
Top Glove. We have been saving and protecting lives all over the globe.
But in June, a Channel 4 News investigation exposed the dark side of this operation, involving the exploitation of migrant workers from poorer countries in the region, forced to work excessive overtime and paid £1.08 an hour. We revealed conditions in squalid company hostels, workers crammed into bunks up to 30 to a room, in what we described as COVID-friendly clusters. A COVID cluster crisis has now completely crippled Top Glove, with more than 4,000 infections now recorded in its sprawling manufacturing hub southwest of Kuala Lumpur. The company's already been forced to close 20 of its 28 factories in a desperate bid to contain the outbreak. Thousands of workers have been placed under a strict government-imposed lockdown, but the footage we've obtained shows many are now incarcerated in the same grim conditions we'd highlighted, stacked in bunks, living cheek by jowl. Rubbish piling up outside next to mouldering washing areas. Thousands have been screened for the virus, no social distancing involved. And those infected have been moved to hospitals in the area. These pictures show how workers in one of these facilities have to queue for food. The warning signs that this could happen had been obvious for months.
On Tuesday, a Malaysian government minister visited some of the hostels, describing conditions there as deplorable, pledging a full investigation with a report due within a week.
Top Glove's CEO has denied conditions are crowded and unsanitary and said the company spent £3 million upgrading housing. Following our report, Top Glove also spent £9 million reimbursing recruitment fees workers had paid to agents. But after months of surging profits, Top Glove's share price has taken a nosedive. Global orders for vital PPE will now be delayed by weeks as the workers at the sharp end of the fight against this pandemic struggle with their own health crisis.
On Tuesday, Queensland will welcome Victorians and all of New South Wales across its border, which has been shut since March due to the pandemic. The move is expected to help boost its state tourism industry, which has been affected by the loss of international travellers. Here's ABC with more.
From the first announcement of New South Wales or Greater Sydney, bookings started streaming in, and with Victoria announced the next day, we saw a great pickup of bookings, not just for the Christmas and New Year period, but well into next year. We've been implementing all of the COVID-safe practices from the very start. We were very conscious of that, being a remote community with limited medical facilities. So we're very confident that we can ensure visitors' safety as well as the community. The Daintree has actually had some good visitation from the drive market. It is well managed, the number of visitors making their way into the World Heritage listed area, and so they're certainly ready to welcome many more in the coming months. But ecotourism really is such an important element of what we're offering in the Port Douglas and Daintree region. People have much higher expectations in conservation. As a destination, we believe we've really been spearheading this since the Daintree blockade, which was in 1988. And that's when, as a region, we moved away from timber extraction and agriculture and sought to look at nature-based tourism as a strong economic future. And it's absolutely worked out beautifully for the region. Our operators have been doing this for decades. We have a really high number who have been eco-certified for over 20 years, and this time last year we became Australia's first destination to become eco-certified as a region. Tourism provides an economic incentive to conserve the environment, and that's just the perfect fit for the Port Douglas and Daintree region. And it is about presenting those natural assets and developing a greater appreciation for visitors so that we hope they return to their own communities with greater environmental, attitudes.
You're watching National EMTV News. When we return, we'll bring you a closer look. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. The story of Mason Mai is typical of former prisoners. Earlier on, he made a few bad choices. After serving time in prison, he is now helping others like him reintegrate into society. It's a long and difficult road with many unable to find jobs and unable to get police clearance certificates. Mason said the experiences have given him a new insight and purpose.
Mason Mai is a well-known face in East Taraka. His father was a carpenter and he spent much of his early life in this part of Lae City. In the 1990s, East Taraka was known for the wrong reasons. It was a crime hotspot and many of those who grew up knew somebody who had been in trouble with the police.
Time I grew up in East Taraka, more big laboratory, more get more school. So me brought up this like an environment where me play time looking more big laboratory come up also me play like come up one kind of small.
Mason bamito ko na mem was mem liglig barata. Okay, time Mason liglig mangi been school staff, so before biget passing was been big platrua. Okay, me been staff in child law this la kind of crimes tua. Life where no good pla. Okay, me pla biget kam na. So me lugi sanpla mangi all die. Okay, one pla barata, been die all kilimem lo kumul, Jackie apkas must be a white. So me at me sanap lo I blomi miluki mol simbu kilimem so miluki mem yang pla mangi tumas. So I'm married na I'm die na I'm losing life. Okay, bien mi stapi one pla barata ken lo samarai, gilu die,
So along the way, mipla tu mipla, make him all kind of biget, one kind of some get a line sa wokim lo settlement na sabab. Igo na miss school, igo inapi mo some grade 10, but ting plus school no strong tumas na. Kambekan after lo grade 10, mipla kambekan stop lo street igo.
In 2000, Mason had his first serious brush with the law. He was arrested for attempted murder and spent 3 months in remand at Vanimo prison. It was an experience that marked a turning point in his life, but it was going to take a few more years and a few more life experiences before he began making positive changes.
After lo desla through lo grace lo pabagot na maybe come out can through lo victim being one bell me plus treat him outside. So time he come outside back me thinking lo send him passing.
While life had given Mason Mai a prior warning, he didn't alter his path as easily. 16 years later, he was back in prison for assault and battery. By then, he had a family and had begun a career as a radio personality.
Me been going to prison 2016. So me going to upset lo assault na lo pasim lo paidi meritasol.
When he was released, Mason spent the next 3 years helping the Vanimo Prison Administration with its rehabilitation program. He worked as an unpaid volunteer to help inmates transition from prison to normal life.
Biglo something we am creative impact straight lo me am side lo pikinini. Biga tupla boys. Na time go stop inside la hub, na time looking mo some time first time only come visit me. I may been really broken mat lo mistred. Na me looking mo some sample papa inside lo hub. No got visit lo pikinini lo. Sample come lo peles. Na all come stop mo some all stop na no got visit. Na lo mi mo legally time so me go stop na me can film this la big la bell pen lo mi no looking pikinini lo me. But for those all stop na no got visit lo family or pikinini no come looking mall na. Especially time sa come lo Christmas. Na time only looking mo some sample pikinini or come na visit mo papa na. O begging mo something I'm so broken bell lo straight.
Finding a purpose has been key for him. Today, he is back in the studio working as a volunteer for the Lutheran Church-owned Christian radio. But his work in helping inmates readjust remains his primary focus.
Misawa igat all sample kind of individuals or business houses igat all road to help him stop. But suppose only can help him all discharged prisoners, especially all parolees, probationers, those on bail, those that on remand, case below dismissed. If they can give them opportunity, look organizations, so one of them online, well, existing online, only work, put him on, help him all, give him more second chance, find him all hot jobs.
And EMTV News will bring you our top story on the Prime Minister's conference later in the bulletin. But up next, Trukai Sports with Fidelis Sukina.
Trukai Sports.
Good night and welcome to Trukai Sports. Sport Stock 7's tournament director Paul Joseph is pleased with the level of talent displayed in the third annual Sport Stock 7's. As a prolific and explosive sevens player in his youth, PJ says Papua New Guinea always has talent for sevens rugby. The Sport Stock 7's Rugby Union tournament is in its third year and keeps on bringing to the fray entertaining Rugby Union sevens talent. For the tournament director Paul Joseph, he says it is good to see teams from outside of the city of Port Moresby having the chance
to travel to the tournament and also bring some good atmosphere to the Bava Park grounds.
Total of 24 teams, and half of them are coming from outside Port Moresby, and they always bring something different to this game of sevens, and they also bring the crowd. They got families that are in Moresby. Obviously, been a tough year, and they may have not seen them in a very long time. So families have come out both days, yesterday and today as well. So
this year has been difficult for the sport of sevens and rugby union in general, with limited sevens tournament across the country due to COVID-19. But it has proven the wait for the Sports Talk Sevens tournament, which was rescheduled from Easter to November.
There's always talent. There's always talent in our country, for whatever sport it is. They just need an opportunity to come out in an avenue like this, and it's very thankful to Sports Talk and Tati Sports for continuing this relationship with Capital Rugby Union and PNG Rugby Union to have this. This is our third year running to host the Sports Talk. Traditionally, it's always held during the Easter weekend, but obviously because of COVID, we've been brought forward. And yeah, we are thankful also to the controller and the police commissioner, David Manning, in his office, PNG Sports Foundation, NSTL, the venue management team, our medical team, Dr. Kapu as well. They set the framework for us to get the okay to host our competition.
Paul Joseph has been an icon in years gone by in the sport of rugby union, especially in the sevens format, but he still enjoys the game. Playing in a few tournaments in previous years, he is also a rugby union referee. He has been given the prestige through the Paul Joseph Award for the best and fairest player of the Sports Talk Sevens tournament. And it is a tough job for him, choosing a player to have the prestigious award given to.
I'm firstly thankful to Sports Talk and Tati Sports, Elsie and Benson for naming the best and first award after me. Very humbled that I've been acknowledged for what I've done. And I mean, I've always enjoyed my rugby, and I like to give it to someone that's enjoying the game. Whether it's a first time or an old head, just going out there, play the game within the laws. You respect your opponents, you respect your own teammates as well, the match officials, and that's the kind of person that I've been looking at. I've seen a couple yesterday, and obviously the finals been, and then you got to look at those that are scoring the tries, because you gotta look at them as well. They're the ones that keeping the crowd on their toes and bringing the excitement there. But yeah, I've always enjoyed rugby, having fun, going out there and trying different things. So that's what I'm looking at as well.
And to the winners of this year's Sports Talk Sevens tournament is again last year's winners, the Papuan Compound Ravens of Lae City, Morobe Province. It was a replay of last year's Cup playoff between the Ravens of Papuan Compound in Lae and the Brothers Club of Port Moresby. Similar to last season, it was again the PC Ravens who stood out, running in a 15-5 victory on the home side. The Ravens, apart from getting the bragging rights, also claimed 10,000 kina and a new set of jerseys. In the other categories, the Shield winners are Kalibobaganas from Medang, with the Bowl winners from Nova in Port Moresby, and the Plate winners, 15 City Pirates of Kimbe, East New Britain Province. More sporting stories after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
And welcome back to Trukai Sports. To sports abroad, St. Helens have won the Super League final over Wigan in dramatic fashion. The game boiled down to the last minute of play for the winner.
In a low-scoring affair, Wigan recorded the opening try midway through the second half. St Helens then levelled the scores at 4-4 with 7 minutes to go before snatching the title with the final play of the game.
Career drop goal last season in the grand final. Oh, he's hit the post. The chasers are on. The ball is disappearing. It's Wellesby. Wellesby might have got the try.
8-4, the final score. It's the second straight title for St Helens.
And that story wraps up Trukai Sports. The weather forecast for the next 24 hours when we come back. Bye for now.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
A look at the weather forecast in the southern region. Fine partly cloudy weather with inland thundery showers later in Port Moresby. Mostly fine, although partly cloudy in Daru. Partly cloudy with a few evening shower or two in Kerema and Popondetta, and fine, although partly cloudy with evening shower or two later in Alotau. In the Mamasa region, mostly fine, although partly cloudy with evening rain drizzles in Ley. Partly cloudy with evening showers in Midang and Wewak, and mostly cloudy with evening rain drizzles in Vanimo. A look at the weather forecast in the New Guinea Islands region. Fine, although partly cloudy in Lorengau and Kimbe. Fine weather, though partly cloudy with evening shower or two in Kavieng. Partly cloudy with chances of evening thundery showers in Kokopo and Rabaul, and a few showers and thunder in Buka. And in the Highlands region, partly cloudy with evening rain showers in Mount Hagen. Partly cloudy with evening drizzles in Goroka and Kundiawa. Cloudy with evening rain drizzles in Mendi and Wabeg.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
And before we go, Prime Minister James Marape is confident of remaining as Prime Minister despite moves to oust him. Speaking in a news conference from the government camp at Loloata Island Resort this afternoon, Marape confidently announced that majority of the members of parliament are on his side. Adelaide Sirix Curry with this report.
The number game is still on, even though Parliament has been adjourned to April, and Prime Minister James Marape has stated that the government camp is a retreat. Today, Prime Minister James Marape announcing the numbers.
On our side now, 54 remains the number on our side. 55, 56, 57, 58, in fact about 15 to 20 members are in deep discussion with us. They suddenly realized what took place on the 13th of November. And what is taking place, and members are talking to us, and when dust finally settles, and when Parliament finally is reconvened, the exact number on our side and the opposite side will be established at a time.
Prime Minister Marape responding to opposition leader's statement that opposition would go to Parliament on Tuesday, as Nama claims majority of the legislative arm moved that Parliament be adjourned to December 1st after the sitting on November 13th.
If, for instance, tomorrow we go to court and the court tells us go back and sit Parliament on the 1st, I'll be the first one to go back and sit on the 1st. The matter is before court, and it will come before court tomorrow.
While opposition has called on the Speaker's office to recall Parliament on Tuesday, Speaker Job Pommard, speaking to EMTV News, has said that he will await the court's decision before deciding when exactly Parliament should resume. Mr. Pommard further stating that at no point did the executive arm direct his office or the clerks, and the clerk had advised him that he had only realized that the motion was not in order after the sitting on Friday had ended. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has denied the executive arm that consists of him and the NEC had interfered with the recall of Parliament on the 17th.
So, we have three distinct arms of government. I don't have any right to direct the Speaker to conduct Parliament.
Speaker Job Pommard has said that without preempting the court's decision, that if the court does find that his office is in the wrong or that the legislative arm should conduct its own business, there are processes in place that he will follow. Adelaide Sirix Kari, National, EMTV News.
Meanwhile, the opposition team maintains that the conduct of Parliament on November 13th and the adjournment of Parliament sitting to December 1st are in line with parliamentary standing orders. Members of the opposition side returned to Port Moresby today after camping for 2 weeks in Vanimo. They include opposition leader Beldan Nama, People's National Congress Party leader Peter O'Neill and New Ireland Governor Sir Julius Chan, who returned to Port Moresby earlier, joined by the opposition team this afternoon. And that's been the news, sport and weather for this Sunday, 29th of November 2020. From all of us here at EMTV, pleasant viewing and bye for now.